sharing the recording so that I can encourage people to come and attend in person, because many people may say, well, I can watch a recording later, I don't have to attend. So anyway, Nina is with us. She's from Germany, and she was an intern here for a while, did some research with us and helped us a lot in the museum. And now she is in New Zealand, where I am going to go to New Zealand. Jesse and I are going to go to the New Zealand. And here I have next to me Banana Sheikh, and Lexi is a volunteer, and Jesse is listening in, and we have a bunch of good other people online. So Nina, you can share your screen.
Yeah, I tried that, but for some reason it doesn't let me share it. So I try to save it as a PDF now.
Okay,
and maybe I can.
When you click at the button that says share at the bottom.
Yeah, I know, but for some reason it tells me that it's not possible.
And then so I click on the either entire screen or select a window. Entire screen usually works for me. So entire screen, then you click on that screen that shows up and then click share. Okay, you see what I'm saying?
I'm having some trouble, yeah. But for some reason it doesn't let me do anything right now. I'm so sorry.
I'm adding you as a co-host. Try it again. Click on the present now. Click on entire screen. And then click on the screen that shows. And then click share.
Now you should see it, right?
Now, yes. Okay, now make it full screen with the button on the lower of the PowerPoint, which shows the screen, to make it show as a full screen. In the PowerPoint or PDF, there is a button. Yeah, perfect. All right. Yeah? We're in business. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Now I can't see any one of you. So
okay.
In case you don't understand me, because the Wi-Fi connection is kind of bad here. Okay. But in case my Wi-Fi connection is not good enough or anything, you can't understand me, please just shout in and let me know, because I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay. Cool. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Nina, and I'm going to present the results of my bachelor thesis today. I'm very excited to do that, and let's get into it. But maybe a few words about me. So I just finished my bachelor's degree in ecology and environmental planning, and I was extremely lucky to write my thesis in Palestine at PIBS. So I hope this is going to be interesting for you, and let's get into it. So first of all, I will say some introductory words about why I did this research. I'm going to introduce you to the study site, which I'm sure you all definitely know, or have seen at least, maybe heard about it. And then I will talk a bit about the threats and challenges that I identified, talk a bit about plant species distributions that I modeled, and also which ecosystem services I think are available in this area, and then finalize with my conclusions. So I did not have much time to prepare this presentation. I don't know how this is going to be going today. So please bear with me. I'm sorry for not being fully prepared. So why do we need a management plan? Why about this particular area? So I came to Palestine because I wanted to write my bachelor thesis, and Mazen said, well, we need a management plan or a protected area. And I said, okay, I will try my best. So I did some research how the planning system in Palestine is, and there's was not that much information because there's, to my knowledge, not a lot of like functioning Palestinian managed nature reserves, because, well, the occupation poses a lot of challenges. But nevertheless, Palestine has committed to some conventions, for example, the Convention on Biological Diversity. And that convention requires that you have, they made a strategic plan for biodiversity in 2011 to 2020. And in one of those goals that they formulated, they said, yeah, well, we also want to account for ecosystem services. How does that apply to Palestine? Well, Palestine is, as a state, required to build up strategies and a protected area network. So the National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plan, the work was concluded in 2022, and I think, I'm not sure if it was actually published last year. But yeah, there was a plan that was being written, and also the protected area network. There was a paper that has been published last year about it, and that basically said that there are 28 protected areas. The biggest of them is the Dead Sea protected area. And well, my task was to contribute to the management plan. I think initially Mazen's idea was that I do a little more planning about it, but I was like, okay, I'm from Germany. I don't know much about the Palestinian environment, so I'm just going to do a basic analysis of the area and like my ideas about what should and could be in it. And well, a management plan usually has specific framework that it should apply. Like you have to set goals, make a framework for decision making, and that for a specific period of time. And well, since I'm not from Palestine, I'm not in any organization really that is eligible to like set goals. I did not want to go into the details of that, but just, do some basic analysis that might help in setting goals. And also the management plan should identify the key features or values of that protected area. And I think that was my main idea, what I wanted to contribute. And the specific objectives, I think that should be done by the Palestinian people itself. Okay, so the research questions that I wanted to find results for were, first, what are the threats and challenges in the Dead Sea protected area that need to be taken into consideration when formulating a management plan? Because I felt more comfortable analyzing plants, I focused more on it and wanted to identify where are the possible habitats for rare plant species, but also for invasive plant species. And then what is also the title of my thesis is about the ecosystem services. So which ecosystem services can the Dead Sea protected area provide, and what recommendations, management plan recommendations, can be retrieved from them. And lastly, I also included a very short analysis of the possibility of building a geopark in there and how that would all connect into a zonation that could be done for that area because it's quite big. So let's go to the study side. So it's 235 square kilometers, and thus is the biggest protected area according to protected area work plan. Apparently, according to the plan, it has also the potential for the designation under IUCN as a red-listed ecosystem. I did not do too much research about it because I did not feel comfortable enough to do that because there's a lot of data that needs to go into it, and I didn't have the data available so that I didn't feel too comfortable to do that. But maybe we can discuss that later on. I think Mazen also has some more input for that. And well, the PAN was not very consistent about whether the Dead Sea protected areas should be designated as a Category 4, so a habitat and species management area, or Category 1A, which would be a strict nature reserve. So I also took that into consideration about like what recommendations I personally have regarding that. So the study site itself, as you can see it here on the right side of the slide, in black are the boundaries, and the background is filled in with the elevation in meters. And you can see that it's quite a big span. So the lowest point is minus 425, which is also the lowest point on Earth, which makes this place very special and unique. But it also can get almost 2,000 meters high. Not exactly like you can see it on the map up on the top. It's outside of the boundaries of the protected area, but well, there's some like quite dark brown spots where it's probably around 900 to 1,000 meters of elevation. So we have some areas of interest, which is first of all Qumran, where a Bedouin boy found the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are important for, like, I think Jewish and Aramaic people. And Feshra is a wetland habitat, which is very valuable. And there's a spring of Ein, sorry for the pronunciation, Ein Huwair. I'm not an Arabic speaker, so very sorry for the pronunciation. And also one of the caves that is there is the Murabad caves. There are several more, but this is, I think, one of those that has been more studied. In general, it is a semi-desert steppe. It encompasses 3 phytogeographical regions, which are the Sudanese, the Sahara-Arabian, and the Irano-Turanian. PIBS found 67 bird species, 24 mammals, including 8 bat species, 1 snake species, and 1 freshwater fish. In Einfeldschler, there have been like more species been discovered, but that was by the INPA, so the Israeli National Park whatever organization. I have the specific data in my thesis, but not right now at hand. Sorry for that. What makes the protected area also kind of unique, but also is a challenge, a threat to the ecosystem, is that because of the shrinking of the Dead Sea, there's sinkholes that develop, and they have not been really studied yet. So we need, there are beginnings of the studies, but I think we don't know too much about it. So that would also be a future research topic. And one of the challenges, or the biggest challenges that we have, are definitely the Israeli occupation, because large parts of the protected area have been declared as closed military firing zones. And the access is very restricted, not only because of the firing zone, but also because the Israelis established the Enot Tzukim Nature Reserve in Ein Feshra, Qumran National Park, and 2 illegal settlements. So what are the threats and challenges that I considered in my thesis? So I tried to tangle myself along the open standards for the practice of conservation. And I did that by starting with the conservation targets. Like I did some research, some desktop research about which plants are in the area, which animals live there, what kind of habitats do we have. And basically what I did is for the ecosystems, wetlands in like arid regions of high, because they provide a lot of biodiversity. So I thought they would be like very valuable conservation target. Then I chose a few plant species to cover each of the phytogeographic regions. Sorry, and also a few that I found out that they provide some like very valuable ecosystem services. I think those were Caparis decidua and Moringa peregrina. And well, for the animals, I chose one bird species, which is a Neophron percnopterus, which is a vulture, and the gazella. I don't think I need to translate that. Yeah. And I will skip the right part of that very complicated looking picture right now, because I will talk about it a little later and focus on the threats and challenges, which are depicted here in orange. So basically, I attributed each conservation target with a specific challenges that might apply. And you can see that desertification and drought definitely has an effect on wetlands and reeds, but also indirectly on the animals. Overgrazing is more applicable to like the plant species, obviously. And yeah, I don't think I need to go into too much detail about all these different threats. So what I also want to highlight here is that the first column here, starting with climate change, lack of governance, military activities and stuff, I consider to be indirect threats, which affect the direct threats. So desertification, drought, overgrazing, etc., etc. This becomes important in my next step of the analysis, which is to rank these challenges and their effects on the different conservation targets. So I made this simple threat ranking where I did some, well, I thought about how much of an impact, like the spatial impact, the irreversibility, and the long-term effects each threat could have on the conservation targets, and ranked them as low, medium, high, and very high, and then summed it up for each threat and also for each conservation target. As you can see, there are quite a few gaps because not each direct threat has been attributed to each conservation target. That was mainly because of a lack of analysis that I could find. But that doesn't mean that there's no linkage between each of them. That was just me working alone, basically, and thinking about it. But definitely, if somebody else would contribute, we might have slightly different results. So please interpret this carefully. What we can see, though, is that wetlands are a very important target that has a lot of challenges. And in general, the protected area, the conservation targets do have. Okay, I think I will continue with the next topic, which are the possible plant species habitats. I did some modeling. So what I basically did is find online data where the plant species have been discovered and fed it into a model that accounted for environmental factors. And then the model kind of did the analysis whether it is likely that the plant species is found in these regions, because I could not really enter the whole protected area because of the military firing zone and other barriers like checkpoints. But I wanted to have a better picture of where these plants could potentially grow so that we have a better understanding of the area. I also tried to account for bias, but as you can see, most rare plant species are here in the eastern part of the protected area, which is probably still because we found most data here. That doesn't mean that here on the western part, there is less likelihood of these plants occurring, but well, it kind of does according to the model, but I think maybe we could optimize the model later on. And also if we have more data, maybe that would improve the model. But it's still kind of interesting that we have this pattern of higher numbers of rare plant species here on the eastern side. I did the same for the invasive species, and I could not identify such a simple pattern. But also there were way less invasive species that I could actually model, because you need like a certain amount of data, and for the invasive species there were not too many, which I think is a good sign, meaning that there are not too many invasive species interfering in that region. Okay, now going back to that complicated picture that we had before. So each of the conservation targets provide different ecosystem services. I hope I forgot to explain ecosystem services. I hope you are already familiar with the term. So basically it does mean that every part of the environment has a specific benefit for humans. That can be water purification, biodiversity maintenance, food, medicine, everything like that. So I try to analyze which species have which ecosystem services, and then how they do it in the open standards is they attribute it to human well-being targets. So usually you would also set specific goals. Like, for example, for tourism livelihoods, you would say, okay, hey, we want to have this kind of tourism, and we want to get this much money, and then you would build up on this. But I just made the basic research and said, okay, well, we want to build up tourism livelihoods, we want to improve Bedouin livelihoods, we want to improve physical health, spiritual health, and so on. And these ecosystem services that the conservation targets provide help in that. So kind of to show also people that conserving these species, these ecosystem types, actually has a benefit for the people itself. And it's not only taking away their land again. Then I try to also model some of the ecosystem services. So habitat quality is not in itself an ecosystem services, but it is sort of a proxy. You can identify like where are like areas with higher biodiversity, where habitats for animals, and then you can sort of spatially map it. I did that also with a model which is called INVEST. And basically what you end up with at the end is this map with the different colors. Here it's from red to green. And I added the threats and challenges on top of it to kind of show what the model did. So you've fed it with a map showing what likelihood of that area is in providing a good habitat, and then like account for the challenges as threats, like how they would impact it possibly. And you can see that the military area here definitely has an effect. Here there are like slightly lighter green areas, but most apparent here are these orange areas, which are connected to the overgrazing. But I want to overgrazing in terms of, well, in the center of these circles are Bedouin communities. And I want to sort of criticize this image here, because the model could not account for the lack of or the restricted access here in that area. So probably these areas are not as degraded as this picture shows, because the livestock cannot enter these areas as far as I understood. But if it would be open, we should pay attention to these areas. That's sort of what it does mean. So roads and settlements are also a threat to the habitat quality. So you can see maybe here around this little red dot that you can see, I think that's where one of the settlements is, sorry. And we can also see that on the left side, there's a dark green area where it's outside of the military firing zone, where it's dark green, so possibly a good habitat quality over there. But I also want to highlight here that we don't know actually what is going on in these military firing zones. So the model just assumed that there's the same type of disturbance in every area, which is probably not the case. Probably there are like more concentrated areas of pollution, of contamination, of trampling, whatever, bulldozing than in other areas. So the model definitely does have its restrictions, and we should also here again interpret the results carefully. I did also a second run where I included the separation barrier that is planned in here, but I did not want to put the pictures right next to each other because it can be quite confusing, because when you compare them closely, it seems like other areas would be benefiting from the habitat quality, but it's just a relative scale. So it does not mean that it in overall is better, it's just relative to this model run. The habitat quality in certain areas would be better because there's another thread adding on top to the already existing threads. So it kind of distorts how this model sorry. It's quite late here in New Zealand, so I'm not really good at thinking anymore. I hope you sort of understand what I mean. Otherwise, we can go deeper into in the discussion, and maybe I can think better in that time. Sorry. What I also try to incorporate is the ecosystem services of that, well, how ecotourism could be beneficial in this area. So I analyzed how is it the current use of that area by tourists. And that was done by analyzing how many pictures were taken in these areas. So where are points of interest? Where would people like to go? And the model here took pictures from the internet and geolocated them. And what we can see here is for the whole area, we can see that in January, March, and April, most of the pictures have been taken. Like, it's not a lot, it's still quite low numbers, which I guess is also kind of obvious, given that it's kind of hard to come to Palestine. But anyways, January, March, and April are the months that are of most interest for people, possibly because it's greener at the time of the year, the temperature is nice. So that's when people would rather prefer to go to the Dead Sea area. And then I did a second run, and that refers to the graph here or the picture on the right, where I looked closely at the spatial patterns of it. And we can see that the main point of interest is here, this light yellow spot, and that is approximately where one of the settlements is. And I looked it up, and apparently there is like kind of possibilities for Israeli tourists, I guess, to stay there overnight and have a little Dead Sea getaway. So this is where most of the photos have been taken. But also up here in the top, Infastra also has quite a high number of photos of pictures being taken there. Interestingly, Qumran has not as many. But yeah, I don't really have an explanation for that. And also you can see that along the highway, there are more pictures, whereas in the closed military firing zone, obviously no pictures have been taken or uploaded. Yeah, that's more accurate. So, yeah, I'll continue with this. Mazen also asked me to think about the possibility of building a geopark in that area. And definitely the area is geologically very interesting because of it encompassing the lowest place on Earth, and the Dead Sea with this hypersaline lake is quite unique. So a geopark usually tries to protect the geology and geomorphological structures. And usually you want it to become a UNESCO Global Geopark because then you have more funding, more advertising, more people would like to come and visit, and thus you could actually finance the conservation there. And they have a checklist, and I went quickly through the questions, or not quickly, but I went through them. and thought about the possibility of doing that. And the major factors that I think are difficult here is that, first of all, in order to become a UNESCO Global Geopark, you already have to be in a functioning geopark. And that is nearly impossible, I think, as far as I understood, for Palestine, because Israel would not allow it. So yeah, that is one of the biggest challenges, I think. Also, usually geoparks are a lot bigger. So they have an average size of 1,000 to 2,000 square kilometers, whereas the Dead Sea Protected Area only has 235 square kilometers. Another factor that we should think about is that a UNESCO Global Geopark should be unique, and no comparable geology should be found in another geopark. Until now, there is no such geopark, but Jordan is preparing its application for one at the Dead Sea area, and they are a bit more advanced in planning it. So that might be critical. So lastly, my question was also my goal was to find a possible zonation concept. I excluded the geopark now here because, well, in case the geopark would be built, maybe we should do it bigger either way. So here I made 3 zones, sort of. One is a strict nature protection, and I decided that Einfallstra should be strictly protected because of its like very what's the word? Wetlands because of desertification and climate change are highly at risk, and we should pay special attention to them in arid regions. So, if possible, as little human interference, or if possible, but also maintaining conservation. Maintaining the status quo via direct action should also be thought about in that area. Well, here along the highway, we have a lot of potential for ecotourism. So maybe that could be a species management area in line with ecotourism. And then here in the western part, where there's currently the closed off military firing zone, well, obviously this should not be in a protected area, and definitely not at all in Palestine, but well, that's what we're dealing with. But it would be preferable if there were no firing zone and that we could actually use this land, build up a grazing management so that Bedouins could let their livestock graze in that area, but also in accordance with an environmental protection program. That was my sort of idea for that part, just in case at any time this is actually accessible. So, sort of what are the conclusions that I came up with from all these scenarios, from all these results? So you sort of got that it's kind of a unique area, biodiversity-wise, but also politically. And well, best conservation efforts are usually done in cooperation with other stakeholders, especially for the gazella, where Israel is really like trying its best to stabilize the population. Cooperation could be beneficial in terms of conserving this specific species, but obviously this is highly unlikely and not really a political wish from either side due to the occupation and all the harassment going on, but I don't think I need to go into detail here about this. Well, obviously the declaration of the military firing zone needs to be revoked to stop the harmful actions from the military in that area, and that actually the local population can benefit from the lands and benefit from the ecosystem services that they are now deprived of. To ensure free movement of larger animals such as the gazelle, also hyenas and ibexes, we should limit habitat fragmentation. Therefore, obviously, the segregation barrier should not be built. We should not build any more like construction sites and roads, whatever, in this area to ensure free movement of these animals. I highlighted several times that wetlands and drylands are very important biodiversity-wise, and they especially provide important regulating ecosystem services such as water purification, but also a place for animals to drink, thus providing more biodiversity in the area. So that is why infrastructure needs to be strictly protected from human interaction, especially. The species management area around the highway makes sense because, well, there's the most rare plant species that we recorded. And also because of the accessibility by the highway, ecotourism would not have such detrimental effects as it would have, for example, in infrastructure. Well, ecosystem services are mainly for humans, so we should definitely include local stakeholders in our analysis further on, and especially the Bedouin communities, because they are the most marginalized community in the area, and currently are not really involved in any decision-making processes. And lastly, for the geopark, maybe it is a good solution to start talks, cooperate with Jordan, and build a transboundary geopark together, because actually that would have much more benefits than just the possibility of creating a geopark, but also in terms of freedom of movement, creating more peace in the area in general. But I assume that probably you have quite a few critical point of views, maybe opposing point of views to what I concluded here. So yeah, maybe we can talk about this more in the discussion. And as I was supposed to keep it short, I will end my presentation now and would like to thank you for your attention and interest, and sorry that it was so disorganized and I was struggling with words.
Much, Nina. Excellent, even though it's late on your end, and we really appreciate it. It's like close to midnight on your end. So anyways, my thoughts about this, just to open the questions for about 15 minutes, is to say that we plan to publish this paper soon, to send it to Parks Magazine, and to put it out there for building on. Of course, nothing is complete. As always, science builds on everything else. So this is a baseline kind of study that looks at the biodiversity and geology and habitats of the area, and interest in ecosystem services, which under the Kunming-Montreal Convention Global Biodiversity Framework is becoming more and more important to look at nature's benefit to people. And Dr. Isa is here with us, and maybe he would like to comment on this. Just to, preempt a lot of political discussions about this access and lack of access. We are in Palestine, and Dr. Isa can confirm this. We in Palestine assume that all the area of the West Bank is Palestinian, that the Israelis temporarily have access. There's a case in front of International Court of Justice now about the prolonged occupation that has to end. So, but we study our nature. We continue to do this research and management even. We now have projects on wetlands and Masafir Yatta, and even Banana and I and a few others went to Masafir Yatta, not Masafir Yatta, Basat al-Malha, the wetlands in the Jordan Valley. This is essentially closed according to Israeli instructions for Palestinians, and even Israelis, they should coordinate with the military to go in those areas, and we go in those areas. We went last week, and we will take a field trip now, regular field trips as the spring is coming. So we continue to work on these things, assuming we have capacity to manage them and help the local people, empower the local people. So we will do this. So I don't want us to spend too much time discussing about access aspects. So please help yourself. Ask any questions. Unmute yourself. I thought Talib had a question, or you want to say something, Mr. Dr. Talib?
نعم أمرني.
You want to ask a question or make a comment?
هذا this subject is I know that the challenges are greater than to overcome, because the occupation is everywhere and you cannot even move there. It is a good study, but you tackle
I don't want to spend too much time discussing this, because we assume we will have access, and we do have access, and we violate Israeli law, and if they arrest us, they arrest us. We proceed. We proceed as if it's our country. It is our country. Okay, so you have any other question?
About the water, the lack of one of the greatest challenges in this area is the lack of fresh water, natural or the over pumping of the groundwater wells in this area, because we have 3 settlements, big settlements there. They enjoy all fresh water, and they enjoy also all fresh water for the hotels and recreation centers by the Israelis. So this is also must be included in your study. This is major challenge.
That's this. The issue of water, Israel diverted the water of the Jordan Valley, and so the river Jordan dropped from 1,950 million cubic meters per year to 20 million cubic meters per year. This is what's drying up the Dead Sea. And this is a big issue for the environment of the Jordan Valley Basin as a whole. But in terms of blocking the springs, they haven't blocked the springs of like Ain Fashkha or Ain Jadi or the other, I forget the name of the third one, along the Dead Sea. But in the northern part of the Jordan Valley, which is not part of this study that Nina did, they did block springs like Al Oja and Fasayil, and they take water from them, and this devastated fauna and flora around those springs. But this is not impacting the springs around the Dead Sea. Okay, anybody?
Maybe next Thursday we can manage to I and you, Mazen, to give a lecture about the geology of the area.
Yeah, no, the next week and next 3 weeks, actually, we have speakers.
Anyhow, email me about that. Okay.
We will talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else has something? Nina, you want to add something about the issue of the water springs?
Yeah, so I did not include too much information about the extraction of water in the area because, well, it affects the whole of the Dead Sea, and sort of how the boundaries are depicted on the map itself. The Dead Sea itself is not really included. It's just the land side, sort of, if you can phrase it like that. But I am fully aware that water is being extracted from a lot of springs in the West Bank. And I have a short paragraph about it also in my thesis, but because of a lack of time, I did not go into detail about much of it, just highlighted some results that I found in my research. But yeah, there's quite a lengthy discussion in my thesis, which also is dealing with that specific topic, just briefly. So a lot of what I have found out is basically what other Palestinian researchers, but also international researchers have done. And I concluded a very lengthy discussion part. So if you're interested, I can maybe distribute my thesis, but also if it gets published, you can see it done. But yeah.
Thank you. Banan has a question or comment.
Thank you, Nina, for your presentation. And as Nina said, for the importance of the Dead Sea for the plants, I found many plants, very, very rare plants, and near endemic plants in the Dead Sea area. For instance, she mentioned in the table one of the orchid plants. We couldn't go and see that plant because it is sieged inside the fence and in the water sprinkled in Turabi. There for the Palestinians, we couldn't enter and see this plant, but I documented in the Ain Mujib, the southern Ain Mujib in Jordan. But in the desert, as Nina and I were in the Dead Sea area, and she noticed about there's no access for us, for the Palestinians, to go inside there to go to the mountains, because the person for the protection of nature came and he prevented us. He allowed us for only 15 minutes to see the near endemic plant and other rare species. So it needs more study that area for the biodiversity in different types, especially reptiles and plants. So we hope that we can afford it. We will try maybe next week to go with Dr. Mazen to that area and to document more plants to have by the time full list for the plants in the Dead Sea area. Thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Isa? If you can unmute Dr. Isa, you have your hand raised. Amal, unmute.
Okay, yeah. You hear me, yes?
Yes.
So I'd like to thank you and Nina for just doing this study and investigation for this newly protected area, which has been designated and endorsed just in the network in the last June, 5 June, by the cabinet of the Palestinian cabinet. And as you mentioned, as Nina mentioned, that this protected area is the largest protected area in the region, and it spans across 4 administrative, governorates, which is Hebron, Beit Lahem, Jerusalem, and Jericho. And when we studied the network of the protected area, we studied the whole area of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, the border of 1967. And even just we designated some protected area in the no man land. So we consider that all of this land is belong to us, and we have to continue working and doing the study. So you are just appreciating for starting the work in this largest protected area. I have just a small one question or two questions I want to ask from Nina, what the unique feature does this protected area possess? What's the unique features? And based on your research and analysis, could you suggest a species to be designated as a flagship species for this protected area? This is my questions.
So what I think is very unique about this place is, well, its location bordering the Dead Sea, definitely. Because it's a hyposaline lake that is nearly, I think it's the only one in the world. It encompasses the lowest point on Earth, which is also, you cannot really find that anywhere else. And also because of the geological history of the place, because I think most of it is limestone. Talib, maybe you can say more about it. But it has, it was before also the ground of the sea. So it has very unique geological characteristics. It's also why there are a lot of caves, which are now habitats for example, bat species. So that is, I think, one of the unique things. But also in terms of people, sort of creates a sense of belonging, a sense of place if you are from that area, because it is so unique. It affects you. It's not just some area in the world. It is the lowest point on earth. You could say now that Israelis are contesting that area because they found the Dead Sea Scrolls there, but I don't want to get into too many details here. But well, we have a lot of history that is also making it special for humans as well. Flagship species. So I analyzed a little bit more in detail the gazella and I forgot the English name for the vulture. I decided for the gazella in this research because they have the broadest range of space that they're covering in their daily movements, and they would be most affected by further.
You talking about gazella or the ibex? I think the ibex.
Gazella.
Gazella.
The ibex is small.
The small gazelle. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and also the vulture I thought could be a flagship, or not a flagship animal, but some species that especially Palestinians could relate to, because birds usually portray a sense of freedom, which I think people could relate to or would wish to have. So those two were the species that I focused on. But yeah, the ibex definitely is also could be a flagship animal for a similar reason than the gazella.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just for the record, we decided on the new museum that we are building here, Natural History Museum, national level. In the entrance to the museum, there will be a rock cliff with the statue of the ibex and also the statue of the hyrax, another species found near Dead Sea areas, to be basically like مطلة البحر الميت، يعني فيها دور النوعين كتمثالين في المتحف. Claire, go ahead.
Okay. Hello to everybody. It's the first time that I've been able to be in contact with Mazin and your work. I have been following you for I don't know how many years. I am in Ankara in Turkey, and I have been in Turkey for 30 years. Now that I have retired, I have connected with a newly opened laboratory of terrestrial ecology at the Middle East Technical University, which was where I worked. And the professor, Didem Ambala, is doing very, very similar work with what you have been doing, with lots of modeling, following the species, etc. What I am more interested in, because I had to teach language to students, is also following what Mazin, you're doing a lot of work, getting people involved in nature. So I'm going to be starting that. But Nina, what I'm interested in is how a student from Germany does a placement in in Palestine, and then now you're in New Zealand, and this type of mobility and the interconnection that is possible with the internet. Me listening to your presentation that's organized from Palestine, I think this is a really important channel for people who are working on biodiversity and ecology to connect and to develop skills and understanding. So how did you do that? For years I have been meaning to come to the Palestine Museum, to Bethlehem. It's not yet been possible. Inshallah, it will at some point.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think I was just extremely lucky in that. So I was lucky enough to get to know Mazen also online, and then get the possibility to actually do my research there, get some funding to get there. That was just, luck, I think. Also, maybe because of my German passport, I had maybe a little bit less problems crossing the borders. I know that some people have more difficulties with that, so yeah.
But I think it isn't just chance. You got to know each other online. And so how can these sort of connections be promoted? So in a way, if we're talking about ecosystems management, perhaps there's also things that can be done to connect students despite the borders.
I think this is a very good point, and I would like us to evolve these sessions Thursday mornings, Palestine time, to be like conferences that are more global, that affect, for example, can even start having speakers speak about conservation in their countries, like have the person you mentioned speak to us about ask him if he would be willing. And, Cuba, Lebanon, whatever, start having conversations that are global. This allows us to do collaborative research like the one that we did with Nina. And there's so much potential for this, also for comparative studies of environmental issues in different countries. We now have a study on the impact of the wall on the environment. There's a lot of potential for developing these things to be productive and energetic.
I think also two factors. No, continue.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Okay. I think the two factors that essentially made our cooperation possible was, first of all, my interest in international cooperation itself, but also how to incorporate marginalized voices in general, because that was basically how I met Mazen, was that I wanted to write a briefing with some other colleagues for my internship on how to amplify marginalized voices in international projects. And Mazen was interested in talking to us. He actually came forward to us, like I just sent out a broad email, and he was one of the few respondents. So it takes two kinds of people, that, like the ones that are actually interested in environmental international justice struggles, but also people from the other side wanting to contribute, wanting to reach out, and having the possibilities to actually achieve that. I think these two factors made it possible.
So Nina, I think here what you're talking about is when you go, you send out lots and lots of, I'm sure that ecologically there's a parallel here. When you send out lots and lots of calls, how do you phrase it? How do you find the right words so that then perhaps only 1 in a million, but that person will pick it up, right? And I really would love to be able to send a recording. Was this recorded, the presentation?
Yes, we will send the recording, although we kind of started thinking about whether we share the recording widely or not, because people then don't come to the event and listen to the recording. But maybe we wait a few weeks and we release recordings.
Okay.
Help attendance. Because time ran out, let's just take 2 quick questions.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Lexi had a question, but we may think about the session just on communication biodiversity issues globally, and you will be involved in it, Claire.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I just was wondering about the partnership with the Jordan side of the Dead Sea, and if you're able to do more research about these plants through that side.
And Nina, you want to say something, or you want me to address this?
I mean, from my side, I can only say that it was an idea because I don't believe that it is possible to have two UNESCO geoparks in the same geographical area. And in my point of view, transboundary, like international cooperation is always useful. I understand that politically this might pose a lot of challenges that might make it actually harder. I do not know anything about the Jordan side of conservation planning and et cetera, and if there are any cooperations existing already. So maybe somebody else could say something more.
I mean, we have a relationship with the Royal Society for Conservation of Nature in Jordan, and I will reach out to them about this paper, maybe share the paper with them once Nina finishes writing it for publication, and then ask them if they would be willing to have a joint application for a geopark. Maybe I should do this quickly in case they are thinking of doing it separately. Okay, anybody else? Quick question or anything? Lama just joined us, I guess, in the end. If anybody from the audience. But anyway, we continue conversations. In the next few weeks, in the next 3 weeks, I have three topics that we have speakers for. So we'll let you know about these things. For example, about the orchid DNA by Amal, orchids of Palestine and their phylogenetic analysis. We have Johanna will talk to us about the protected area Al-Arqub in terms of habitat disconnectivity, and I talked to Lias about the environmental DNA or his thesis. And anyway, there's those kinds of projects. So we will probably have plenty to talk about, and if we expand it globally, as we just mentioned, because of their interest global issues, then I think we'll have plenty of talks. So I think we should go back to doing it every week consistently on Thursday at 11 o'clock. All right?
Yes. Go ahead, Dr. Mazen.
Thank you.
I will be a number 4, inshallah.
Okay, yeah. If
number
you can
4.
Thing on pollinators, bees, whatever.
I will send you email about this.
Good. Thanks. All right, Nuruddin, you have something quick?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Mazen. Thank you, Mina. Thank you for all audience here. I'm write my question in the comment. Did you study any invasive alien species?
Yeah, we didn't see the comments.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And okay, I see Nama also wrote something. So Nama asked if you can clarify any strategies for protecting species of plants and animals locally and to protect from invasive species. Those strategies, Nama, are in the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. It has all the action plans. It has all the targets per international obligations of Palestine to do this. The problem with the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, well, not a problem, but the challenge is to actually implement it. So Dr. Isa, if he wants to add something about where we are with the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan in terms of absorbing it, whatever. And then for Nuruddin, did you study any invasive species in the Dead Sea area? Yes, there was an invasive species study that was commissioned by the Environment Quality Authority. Banan was part of it, and Ton Khaliliya. Other people, Elias here was involved in it. Elias is still here, or did he leave? I guess he left. But anyway, this is available, and the study is available at the Environment Quality Authority, and you can consult with that and see about strategies for invasive species management, because that was a separate, very detailed study about invasive species, including around the Dead Sea. I think we should stop here, unless there's really urgent things to say. Dr. Isa, you want to say something about anything?
For the invasive species, already we have, as you mentioned, we have done a detailed study for all the area, and including the Dead Sea and all the protected area. And we have, the mapping for all of these species. And for the strategy, already we have just developed the strategy according to the international convention and to the coming Montreal target. And this project and this thesis and this work, it is one of a step of the implementing of this strategy. So the strategies need to be implemented from 2023 to 2030 and need to be updated every 5 years. Just revised. So this is what we have.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for attending, for everybody, and we'll let you know about next week's event. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you also again from my part for your interest and that you gave me the possibility to do the research and present it today. And again, I'm very sorry for me being very tired. But yeah, it was really nice seeing you again, talking to you.
It's good to see you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.